Have you ever noticed how sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're perfectly confident, you feel like you're ready to embrace the day, you've got this, you're on top of your game and you're feeling fully in charge. And then there are other times when you wake up in the morning and you just wake up feeling heavy or anxious. And we tend to think in such circumstances that it's all happening in the mind. What if it is the body that is informing the mind how to think? For centuries, Western philosophy has believed that the mind was running the show and the body was merely a vehicle that was carrying the purpose of life from one place to another. In fact, René Descartes' work was all about I think, therefore I am, which really decisively drew a wedge between the mind and the body. The implication was very clear. The body is the hardware and the mind is the software, and the mind is where everything is happening. But modern neuroscience is revealing a very different picture, and this is very interesting. I was giving a talk at the Happiness Studies Academy in Athens, Greece for one of their retreats, and I had to research the work of Antonio Damasio. Now, Damasio at Stanford University had been studying brains that were damaged in places where cognition and feeling had a relationship. So that particular part of the brain was damaged where cognition and feeling had a relationship. And he found that people with perfectly good IQ, people who could reason perfectly well, people who could think for themselves, were having difficulty making even the simplest decisions. They were having a hard time taking a simple decision about anything. So why was that? Turns out that decision-making is not just happening in the thinking mind. Decision-making actually requires feeling. It requires emotion. In other words, our thinking is not separate from our feeling. And the body is this entire resource of information on feeling. In fact, it is the body that gives us cues, that lets us know how it's feeling in a certain moment. It is experiencing a certain emotion. And that is the compass that the brain uses in order to take decisions. Researchers Amy Cuddy and Dana Carney's work that we had to study in our Masters in Happiness Science was really interesting. They studied postural feedback. And they basically said that the way you hold your body is the way your nervous system is getting influenced and affected. Think about that for a moment. Posture that you take in your body is actually affecting the chemistry in your brain. I personally find this work absolutely fascinating. I've studied positive psychology in my undergraduate years. I've spent the last 16 years of my life studying and teaching yoga and meditation. And I have found in workshop after workshop, in yoga class after yoga class, in retreat after retreat, that so much of what a person is holding in their emotional world, in their personal world, is showing up clearly in their bodies. And that's actually what I love about teaching Spire Yoga. Spire stands for spiritual, P for physical, I for intellectual, R for relational, and E for emotional. And Spire is a little acronym that encompasses all aspects of our existence. And at Spire Yoga, the yoga that we teach, the sequence that we impart to our students is precisely developed for that reason. Yes, the asanas will regulate your body. Yes, they'll take care of your digestion, and then you'll strengthen, and then you'll flex, and all the good stuff that comes from yoga postures. However, the neuroscience piece is really critical, and it, for me, has been a game changer. When I understood holding my body a certain way, practicing certain postures, doing certain specific stretches at certain times of the day were changing the way I was thinking, the way I was feeling, the way I was approaching my day, was so much empowerment. And at Spire Yoga, the body-brain relationship is one of the 3 pillars of our 200-hour teacher training. Because once you understand how the body is influencing the mind, this is a very important channel that opens up. It is a channel of communication between your nervous system and your mind. You can start to intervene and help yourself actively recalibrate and calm your nervous system down by choosing the postures that you are taking. And the science goes even deeper because the brain is constantly receiving data points from the body. Whether it's heart rate, whether it's blood pressure, whether it's the pulse, whether it's muscle tension, whether it's some kind of anxiety, whether it is hormonal fluctuation, the body is constantly informing the brain of what it's experiencing. And that is affecting your confidence, your sense of safety in the world, your way of showing up in the world, even your emotional life. So all of this is happening below the neck, which really means something very profound. If you're spending 8 hours of your day hunched over your computer or over your device, and what is that signaling to your nervous system? You're actually telling your nervous system an entire story. And the story is about who you are. Your tired self, your fatigued self, your drained self. And your brain is listening and taking notes. This is why posture is so much more important than how you appear in a photograph. We don't just stand tall with our shoulders rolled back for photographs, right? We have to actually practice walking, sitting. And even in our private moments, whenever we're alone by ourselves, check ourselves if we find we're slouching. So in fact, posture is so much more than just aesthetics. It is a constant communication with your nervous system. And this is why this becomes such important, delicate and important information. And this is what I love teaching at Spire Yoga. We really embolden our graduates with postures, the science behind the postures, and then also the psychology behind the postures of why you should stand or sit in a certain way, how it's influencing your inner world. And the deeper message is that your body is not just a vehicle. It's not just the car that takes you from one place to another. It is an ancient wisdom encoded in cells. And listening to the body and working with the body is like opening up a treasure trove of data points on your journey and on how you can really claim and feel empowered in how you want to direct yourself moving forward. I have found that the more intimate you get with understanding how your body works and how the structure of your body is affecting your mind and your nervous system, the more empowered you are in your life, because you can literally course correct. You can literally change a mood. You can literally feel an emotion differently, process it differently, learn to reframe much faster when you know how to handle your body, how to hold your posture, how to show up in the world, even when you're interacting or even when you're in your private space alone by yourself. Therefore, this material and this knowledge is indispensable. For more such insights, subscribe, sign up, leave a comment, let's start the conversation, and look us up at Spire Yoga under Happiness Studies Academy. The link is below.